Good afternoon. Welcome to Entrepreneurial Live Interviews with Connie Fuchsa. Through this series, I try to come to you guys and bring people to you that can explain to you how the process of what an entrepreneur goes through when deciding to start something new, or maybe even just as they're transitioning in their current position into a more of a leadership position. An entrepreneur isn't always just somebody who starts a business. It's also people who run a business, maybe a business inside of a business, maybe a leader in a business. So there's lots of areas here that we're covering. But one of the things that I really want to share with you guys is every single one of these stories is very unique, but also very similar in certain ways. There's some serious themes that are very much the same when you go through some of these stories. And one of those happens to be that people saw something that was an opportunity that needed to be discovered, needed to be put out there, and saw a pain, saw a passion, and said, I've got to do it. And then went through all the steps that it takes to make that happen. And sometimes those aren't the easiest, but figuring out what those things are. And I love being able to share that. And today, I just recently met this lady, and I'm super excited to share her story with you because she just really, was doing some great things, and then realized, this is something I've got to do for myself and for my family, and was super excited about it. She's killing it in her business because she figured out the secret sauce, and I want her to share that stuff with you. So today I want to share with you Natalia Zacharin. Natalia, thank you so much for being with me today.
Thank you for having me. Very excited to be here.
Awesome. Very good. Well, as we start out, what I always like to do is ask you to tell us your story. Tell us about you. Where'd you come from? What some of those paths you went through, and where are you now? And what exactly are you doing now? So tell us a little bit about you.
Sure, of course. So I'm a single mom, and I used to actually be a sales executive for Reynolds Food Service Packaging many moons ago. Had the company car, worked out of my house, and I really enjoyed the ability to have the freedom to make my own decisions and make my own plans. And I think it was like a $22 million territory. So I had a really large business in that sense. I decided, because it was taking over my life and I was traveling so much, I covered about 5 states, that we could afford for me to stay home. So I quit my job and stayed home when my daughter was about 3 years old. I became a stay-at-home mom. During that time, though, I went through a divorce and had to return back to the workforce in 2012 when people just were not hiring, and it was really, really difficult. So I ended up kind of accidentally falling into a job in finance. And I started just with their invoicing, and it's a tech company, and they were great. And I started building from there, adding more responsibilities, started doing QuickBooks for one of their businesses completely. And that's how I kind of started in finance. Eventually, I decided that this was not long-term for me. I didn't feel like there was a lot of growth opportunities. I'm a little bit older than most people, especially in that company. I was a little bit older. Being a single mom, the flexibility was really important to me, and it was difficult to have a commute and be away from my small child. We have no family really in town. So it was becoming very complicated. And I happened to meet a man. I had been already single for, I think it was 7 years. And I met someone who was an entrepreneur himself. And he actually is an expert coach and teaches other entrepreneurs to start their own business. And he said to me, why don't you just start your own business? And I thought, oh, that's really funny. But I was like, why would I start my own business? It didn't make any sense to me. I didn't feel like I was capable at all. And I think a lot of us feel that way. And I just kind of started going through the motions and looking at stuff. He gave me some materials, and I started reading through it thinking, I'm never going to do this. And a couple of months in, while reading some of the literature that he gave me and reading some books, I thought, okay, I'm just going to see what happens. And suddenly I had my first client, and then it became real. And so that was my first client was as of January of last year. So it's been about 1.5 years. I quit my full-time job back last summer. And now it's gone, it's been going really well. It's been going very, very well. And so, yeah, I can't believe that it's happening, but it's been going really well. So that's kind of my backstory.
That is a fantastic story. But, I want to go back to a couple of things first to try to go back and touch on a few pieces. So, here's a lady who's a single mom who is working before you were a single mom, working in an industry, making really good money, and then decided to stay home with her child, which happens to a lot of us.
Yes.
I'm not one of those, unfortunately. I can tell you, thank goodness, my son's gone and grown and gone, because in COVID, I don't know how these poor parents are doing this stay-at-home thing all the time, but I just wasn't cut out for the stay-at-home thing. But here you are, staying at home, taking care of your child. Fantastic, a big life change. You feel like you have to go back to work. So you go to look for a job. That is daunting, of course, in anybody's circumstance, but then somebody who's been in the industry and in the job world for a long time, trying to find a job. And I love how this happens. So you didn't see this business that you started as something that you needed to do. You took a job because out of necessity and said, wow, this is kind of cool. I like this kind of line of work. And so things just happen to us. And
Yes.
then someone says to you, maybe you should open your own business. And you absolutely think it's not a good idea. And then it just starts working. And how cool is that? And now you love it. You're so glad that you did it, but
Yes.
all kicking and screaming wasn't exactly at all what you wanted to do.
No, and it was a lot harder than I thought.
Mhm.
It's kind of like, I feel like it's akin to having children. When you have a child, it's going to be difficult to have children, but you have no idea how difficult it's going to be. And that's how I feel with my business. So I started out and of course, at first I was a single mom running my own business, starting out running my own business, looking for clients, doing everything I possibly can to get clients, and still working a full-time job, and really trying my best to still kill it at my full-time job, so I could do a great job, because I never really thought in the beginning that this was something that I was going to end up doing.
Mhm.
And then I remember thinking last spring, there was like a tipping point that it's getting so busy. I'm not good at anything anymore because I have too much going on, and I need to choose. And so I decided that I needed to just make a jump. I also remember probably last spring thinking it's
Mhm.
taking me a really long time to build momentum. I can't get any clients. It's exhausting. There's so much to do. There's so much technology to learn when you're running a business. And my business is 100% virtual. So there was a lot of technology to learn. I would have like I would have like by Thursday evening, I'd feel like I was having a meltdown. I think I was just super tired. So my
Wow.
boyfriend and I started laughing. He basically became my mentor, and we started laughing that every Thursday I'd call him, and I would just feel like I was in the pits, like I just cannot do this anymore. So all of that passed, and I kept thinking, why can't I get clients? Why can't I get clients? What's happening? And honestly, it's just the momentum. I think it just takes
Yeah.
time to really figure that piece out, and you
Yeah.
have to keep going. You have to be consistent, persistent, and power through. And then suddenly, I felt like I had enough momentum that I could quit my job, and I didn't even have enough clients yet to even cover my mortgage payment, but I quit anyway. And as soon as I quit, I really focused on it, and I tripled my business within 2 months. And
Wow.
yeah,
This is all great information, because even though you've only been doing this a year and a half, there's a couple of pieces here that I want to touch on. The first one is you had no idea how much work it was until you got into it, until you were just immersed into it all. And I think this is a theme with everybody that's an entrepreneur, is you have this idea, you're going to go start this business, you're going to do this thing, but you don't know all this other stuff that you have to know. There's all these hidden pieces that you have to do.
yes,
It's not just changing diapers and filling bottles. It's, sterilizing, and it's middle of the night feedings, and it's, oh, what happens if we have a cough, or someone has leg cramps in the middle of the night, or whatever it happens to be. It's all those things that you have no idea about. I love that correlation. That's probably the best I've heard yet,
yes.
particularly for ladies, because, you just don't know.
No, there's so much to go. And a lot of it is just mental blocks.
Yeah.
It's, thinking I just can't do this. I can't figure it out. And if I remember thinking to myself, if I just need to calm down and just really do it and dig in and not have those feelings and just continue on, I'd be a lot better off, because the time I'm taking with freaking out and trying to get it done and telling myself I can't do it, I could have probably figured it out by then.
Wow, how insightful is that? Guys, did you hear that? So if you're sitting there freaking out, you need to stop, sit back, use this advice Natalia gives us, that, sit back and think about problem solving instead of freaking out, because you'd probably already fixed the problem if you spent the time figuring out the problem instead of freaking out. Although we all need a little freak out time, but yes. I always say, a piece of advice I always used to give a lot of people that surrounded me was exactly, if it's something that you can't control, whatever it is, if you can't control it, then there's no sense in worrying about it, because you're not going to fix it anyway, whatever it is. So decide if you can control it. And if you can, then fix it. If you can't, move on, let it happen. Yeah.
Move on, hire someone if you have to, but don't let the emotion get to you. I mean, really take the emotion out of it, because, and stop that. A lot of it is negative self-talk. You need to stop that self-talk. Just do it.
Yeah. What if I can't do this? Or what happens if it doesn't work out right? Yeah, exactly. So talk to us a little bit about the hiring somebody thing, because I feel like this is another area that people get stuck. You have this great idea, you want to run this business, and in your case, it's an accounting finance business, but which is a piece that a lot of people don't know that they need when they start a business. But let's just talk about it in your case, the social media side, the website side, the legal side, the mentor piece I really love too. And I want to circle back to that in a few minutes. But all of those other things that you didn't know that you needed. And then at what point did you decide, because you're still very young in your business, at what point did you decide those are things I should not be doing? Either I'm not good at it, or I don't have time, or it's taking away from my business time, and I need to either hire somebody or find somebody to barter with, whatever it happens to be. At what point did you decide that was really an important shift you needed to make?
Exactly. So I would say two things. First of all, it depends on what kind of business you have. So some people have to hire right out. Like I work a lot in the landscaping industry. So a lot of my landscape installer type companies, even if they're a brand new business, they have to hire maybe a couple of guys or girls and to do the work, because they can't do it all themselves. But most of us don't need to hire someone immediately. There are two things I think that we all need to do before we think about hiring anybody. First, you have to have your accounting in place. No matter how small a business you are, no matter if you started and you're not even making any money yet, you have to know exactly where your money is, where it's going, and how much profit you're making, so that you can make that decision. I can now afford to hire someone. This is what it's going to look like. This is how it's going to impact my bottom line. And once I hire that someone, this is how it's going to impact my top line, because hopefully that brings me more revenue. Or it takes, and bringing more revenue could look in differently. It could be hiring someone in the social media marketing arena and really, helping your sales pipeline. Or it could mean hiring someone to do your accounting and bookkeeping and freeing up your time so that you can actually do more sales and work more in and on your business. But the accounting piece is super important, because if you don't know where your money is, you have no idea if you can afford to hire someone. And I would say that COVID has been a really interesting exercise for a lot of us. If you haven't had those pieces in place, then you probably suffered even more, because then it was impossible to get a loan, for instance, because you had no idea. Maybe you weren't showing that you had a profit. Well, then you can't apply for any of these loans. If you were disorganized in your accounting, again, you would have trouble, and you have no idea what's going on. So you have to run a very tight ship when it comes to all those pieces. And
yeah, I think this is really important. I mean, obviously you come from the accounting side. So that piece is, you're going to talk to us about how important that is. But this is really crucial as you're talking, some people are just not good at certain things. Is it accounting? Is it maybe writing articles, maybe writing advertising, those kinds of things, don't have the words. Some people can't do those kinds of things. Some people don't know, when you talk about the accounting side, they don't know what they should be saving for taxes as they're making money. So that's really important. So it's really, maybe it's hiring somebody, maybe it's not, but it's knowing your strengths and your weaknesses. If you're jumping into a business, identify immediately what needs to be attacked and what needs to have attention brought to it is exactly what you're going on.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do a service-based business, but I actually hired in my personal life. And I figure they're like part of my team. I need to focus on my business. I'm a single mom, so either I'm working on the business or I'm doing something with my daughter. I also run a nonprofit, so I need time for that. And I want to have a little bit of time for myself. So the first thing I did before it even really had enough business was I hired someone to mow my lawn. I hired a landscaping company, and I hired someone to clean my house. And to me, they're like my team, because I don't want to take that time out away from my business and away from other things, because my time can be used a lot better to build up my sales pipeline, for instance, and getting more prospects into my business. So you have to decide for your business what's most important, what's going to give you the most bang for your buck. And if maybe that is someone writing for you. Maybe that is usually it is an accountant or a bookkeeper to help you keep that straight, because people really mess that up. To be quite honest. Or it may, a lot of times it could be a coach or mentor. I had my free built-in mentor, but and I know you wanted to circle back to that, but that was invaluable. I have my sister who's an entrepreneur and my boyfriend who is an entrepreneur. And those are basically the only people that I spoke to for months, over and over again, getting lots of advice and lots of feedback on what was going on. And I think we all need to surround ourselves with that kind of, with that kind of help.
That's why I wanted to circle back around to that, because this is a common theme in entrepreneurs is sometimes people won't, a business person will not reach out for help because unfortunately there's a stigma that, maybe it makes us look weak, or that we're not strong enough to run our business, or we should know the answers to these things. And that negative self-talk comes in. And you started at the very beginning having a very fortunate situation to have two people, very strong people on your team that had, as you say on your team, I love that terminology. Everybody that surrounds you is part of your team, including your daughter, of course, because, they all bring different pieces to your business and your personal life. But this is amazing that you had this opportunity to have these two really strong people to be able to talk to you. And tell us about the dynamics of that, because you've got your boyfriend who obviously is a coach, so he's clearly well-versed in being able to do this. And then you have your sister who's an entrepreneur who probably speaks to you totally differently about similar kinds of concepts.
Yes, she does. And actually, to clarify, my boyfriend, he's a coach, but he does that for someone else, but he also runs his own business. He's actually a tax strategist. And so for me, that works in two different ways, because first, he can help me and mentor me. Second, he's great. I collaborate with him. So I do accounting and he does tax. So we share clients and we give each other clients constantly. So that's another piece I think that a lot of entrepreneurs do. The collaborations are really important. The referrals are super important. But to get back to your question about the difference, so my sister would give me a lot of entrepreneur advice, but also a lot of sisterly advice. She's older. And so she'd basically just, slap me upside the head and be like, snap out of it and just keep going. I remember we had a really interesting conversation last year and I was really distraught. This was before I started really building momentum. And honestly, I think this one thing she said just turned it around for me. It's incredible how our mind imprisons us. And then when we let go of that and break that prison open, how things can change. But I remember telling her and being really down and feeling bad and saying, here I am, I'm 50 years old and I have nothing to show for my success. I'm not really making a lot of money. I haven't ever made as much as I used to make before I became a stay-at-home mom. I never recovered that salary before. I don't feel like I'm hireable anymore. People want young people. And so, basically a pity party. And my sister said, wait a minute, that's not what I see at all. I see someone who is very successful, who just started their own business, who has always done a great job, who's come, look where you've come from just even a few years ago. And a few years ago, when I first started my divorce and I could not get a job, I figured the first job, no one was hiring me, and it took me almost a year to get a job. And so what I did was I decided any job I get will be a stepping stone to the next job. So I literally got the first job, and I made $7.10 an hour, and that was less than I ever made in my life, even as a high school student. And that was extremely difficult and humbling and not nearly enough money. But that led to another job, and that led to the job that I had then later that I got in finance. And so she said, look how far you've come. And I think that just broke open the gates of, okay, I need to stop looking. Everybody and entrepreneurs are really bad about this. We keep looking about where we want to go, which is great. And you have to know where you want to go, but you have to remember how far you've come and be so grateful. And practice gratitude practice is extremely important. And feeling like you've accomplished a lot, because if you feel that confidence of accomplishment, you can continue on. And I think that just after that, that was when I tripled my business, to be quite honest.
This is wonderful. So two things I wanted to talk about here, but this one being so fresh, I want to go right back to this real quick. So one of the things that we see, and we talked about this early in our conversation together here, was that the stepping stones that take us where we want to go. I was talking to somebody else on another interview, and one of the things that we talked about was how he was pushing through each step and just not even sitting back and enjoying the experiences through each of the steps. And so we realized that sometimes, depending on who you are and what you're trying to achieve, your personality is either pushing you like at breakneck speed through these steps, or you are having these steps and these struggles like you're talking about and thinking, oh my gosh, how am I not getting anything better? How are things not working? And now looking back at it, you realize, had it not been for those steps, you wouldn't be where you are right now, because your personality is different. Your rationale for rationalizing through these things is different. The process is totally different. And the opportunities that you now have because you're stronger for those things is totally different.
Yes, exactly. It makes a really big difference to really look back and understand, and it builds the confidence. And you can't be constantly down on yourself, and second, it makes you second guess yourself. And that doesn't work.
Not healthy. Right. So the other thing I wanted to go back to is this collaboration. And you have the absolutely unique ability to have someone right in your corner that you can do all of these pieces with, when most people have to go out and look for these collaborations. But that I wanted to talk just for a minute about the healthy side of collaborating, because this is also another piece that I think entrepreneurs sometimes don't recognize as something that really is crucial to your business, is finding your, as I said in other earlier interviews, your ecosystem, if you will. These are things that are going to propel us out of the kind of tough situation that we're in right now. But at any point in your business, collaborating with other people will allow you to be a resource to your customers by being the person that they go to and ask everything for. Oh, by the way, Natalia, you do finance, but do you know a landscaper? Since do you do? Well, yes, I do. And now you're the resource for everything in the world. And it allows you to be a stronger business person for that, because you build your sphere of influence. You also build your sphere of knowledge, and people think that you're always the person to go to first, which is exactly what you want to build. So talk a little bit more about that collaboration and how that's helped you, not just with him, but obviously see how doing that, being able to refer in that collaboration has helped both of your businesses.
Yes, absolutely. So the collaboration piece, I think, is really important. And you don't have to collaborate necessarily someone who is in your line of business. It could be someone that is just, a good person. How do I say it? But just, it makes sense in some ways. So I could, for instance, if I don't have to collaborate just with someone in finance, I could collaborate with a coach, for instance, or I could collaborate with even a marketing person or a branding person, because there are lots of different pieces to that you can speak on. But I really enjoy networking. I network a tremendous amount. I don't only do networking to find clients. I do networking to do exactly that, to find people who would be a great connection with the people I already know, whether they're a client or not a client, and connect people and make sure that they have all of their needs met. So exactly, like if my client needs a good social media person, you know what, I already know someone, I know how they work, I've been talking to them, I know what their work looks like, and I can definitely refer them. So referrals are great, and then they'll refer someone back to me as well. But you're exactly right. Let's everybody seek you out as the expert, not just in your field, but in everything. Like they're like, oh yeah, you should call that person because they know they can help you. So I seek out those opportunities. I love meeting people. I think most accountants are not very personable. Well, actually, that's a stereotype, so maybe that's not the case, but a lot of them are a little bit quieter. I have a sales background from decades ago, and I love people. So I reach out everywhere on all social media platforms, on LinkedIn. I try to strike up conversations. I have several calls. I try to do as many virtual ones as possible to save the time, because I hate the whole driving and wasting time piece. But that allows me to meet lots of different people. And I have people now calling me that they're like, you know what, I talked to so-and-so and I heard about you, and I'm literally just picking up business now from referrals or people that heard about me, because I'm reaching out to so many people and also trying to get them business and connect them as well.
Excellent. I love this. This is awesome. Obviously, the more you help other people, they will obviously want to help you as well. And so that's phenomenal. So tell us, if you were giving advice to somebody just getting ready to start out their business, or they're in that negative headspace right now, what would that advice be? What do you think is the best piece or two pieces of advice you could give somebody?
Yeah. So I think the first thing is to read a lot. Read a lot, learn a lot. There are a lot of really, we're so lucky. Like, we're in the age of the internet. And so there's so many podcasts. There are books on Audible. You don't even have to take the time to read. I literally turn on something in my car if I'm driving somewhere and listen to podcasts or books. So constantly learning is very important. There are webinars available. Follow people that speak to you. I like to follow certain podcasts, and some of them are business sense type of podcasts, and some of them are just, like the mental space and to get you in the correct mindset and to help you out. So I believe learning is really important. I really like Michael Gerber's book, The E-Myth. I recommend that book to almost every new entrepreneur. That really helps you to understand it's so important to understand your mission and understand your point B. Like, what would you do and how would you act once your business is already successful? Who would you be, and go from there? And what does that look like? And then put all of those processes in place. Having the process so that you're not just working in your business constantly and just going crazy. If you're working too much and overworked and feel like you're not making any money, you don't have enough processes set into place, and you might not be making enough money because your pricing is incorrect. So you have to get that fixed. So I think that those would be some of the suggestions. The other suggestion would be just to keep going. There's a lot of great information. Like, surround yourself with people that understand you. I actually have a very different circle of friends now that are mostly entrepreneurs, because people that aren't entrepreneurs, they have a hard time understanding why I work. And yes, I work 15 to 17 hours on some days, and sometimes I work 7 days a week, but then I also have flexibility, and I can be with my child, and I work from home. It is a lot of work, and you should just power through. Don't be afraid of it, because it'll happen. Just keep going. Don't give up.
Yeah, it doesn't just magically appear. You do have to work through it, but keep going. I love it. I love these nuggets. They're absolutely fantastic. And all of this information, you have given us so much valuable information. I love it here. So, Natalia, if somebody wants to find you after today, they want to work with you, they want to connect with you, they want to become a collaborator with you, they want to share information, how does someone find you?
Yes, so I'm on LinkedIn as Natalia Zacharin. I also, my company is Zacharin Consulting, so you can find me under ZacharinConsulting.com is my website, which has all my social media and my contact information. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram. So on Instagram, my handle is Grow Your Bottom Line, which is a little bit easier to find. So yeah, definitely out there and trying to post and put out information into the world and help people as much as I can.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, all of those reasons are why you're just doing so much and are so successful in already your very young entrepreneurial career. But I mean, you're just doing exactly all the right things. And you know what? You're going through the struggles too that everybody has, and you're not afraid to share those and share how you're getting through them. So I really appreciate all of that. been fantastic. Tell us a little bit about your nonprofit real quick, because I know that you said something about that and everybody has something that speaks to their heart. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, so that's actually an organization. It's a scouting organization. It's for kids of Russian descent, although they don't have to be Russian, but everything is led in Russian. So it's like an immersion program to keep the language. We are recognized by the Boy Scouts of America. And it's a great group. It's co-ed, it's leadership skills, community building, nature. We do a lot in nature. I'm actually just stepping down for 3.5 years. I've been the executive director, and I have someone replacing me right now as the executive director, and I'm moving on to a different position. But I would say everybody should do something for the community or do something that's volunteer work or for a nonprofit and do something that's for your heart, because it's really important to put that out there. The more you put out there, the more comes back to you. It's so true, and it's really important to do that.
Yep. So what is that organization called? How can someone find it?
So it's called St. George's Pathfinders of America. It's an international organization. We have several chapters, and I'm here in the Washington, D.C. chapter.
I'm trying to add the website in the comments.
I think the website, we have different websites depending on the chapter. So
okay. You added in the comments just so that way if anybody wants to find it, they know where to find that when we get finished. If you just add that in the comments, that'd be great.
Sure,
that way if you can find it, they want to find what the information. I want to be able to make sure we get all of your information out there for everybody. So as we wind up, give me a quick 10 words or less. If you meet somebody new, and you obviously are very experienced at this, how do you explain what you do for a living?
So I help empower entrepreneurs to understand their financials in their business so that they can become more profitable, more streamlined, organized, have peace of mind so they can focus on their business. And I do that through strategic accounting and bookkeeping and remote CFO work.
Nice. Do you work, one last question, do you work with people just in certain jurisdictions, or can you work with somebody anywhere across the country since you're virtual?
So anywhere across the country, any US-based business. I actually have had some businesses that I work with that have partners outside of the US, but as long as the business is based in the US with US dollars, I can work with them.
Excellent. Excellent. Natalia, this has been absolutely my pleasure. I am so thrilled that we got to meet very recently and that we were able to put you together and be on our program, because you have had so much good information to share with us. And I just love all of the nuggets, and particularly the keep going. I think that's the piece that we all forget sometimes, because we talk ourselves right out of something that we probably just should, we know we need to keep doing, but we just don't have the brain power to push us through it. So thank you so much for your time. I truly appreciate every nugget that you shared with us today.
Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it too.
Absolutely. All right, you guys, if you want to find Natalia, she is, her information is in our comments. Also, you can, her video will be on my YouTube channel, so subscribe to that so you don't miss her. You can go back and watch her if you need to, if you want to share it. You can also make sure you're not missing any upcoming interviews that we have coming up, or any that we've already done. Every single one of them has good and juicy information in it. Also, you can go to my website, conniefuchsa.com. You'll see links there to the interviews, also to lots of other things that we have going on. So I'd really appreciate it if you do that. And again, thank you guys for tuning in to Entrepreneurial Live Interviews with Connie Fuchsa. I'll be back with you again next week with several new entrepreneurs I want to share with you. Natalia, thanks again for your time.
Thanks. Bye-bye.